Good afternoon, I'm Charles Vanderlick, and today we'll be doing our first lesson in C programming. To start, I'll show you how to use printf. This will allow us to print messages to the screen. To do this, we'll need to include our standard input-output header as seen on line 1, and then moving forward, inside of our main method, we have an int return type. So because of this, we have our return 0 statement on line 9. As you see, our statements, printf and return 0, are statements, so they have a semicolon at the end. Whereas our other statements are not function calls or actual just program statements, they're things specific to C, such as our include header is going to start at number 1, line number 1, as the syntax shown above. Our function calls or function creations are going to differ from each other in one way. Our printf is going to have a semicolon at the end because it's a function call, whereas if you look at our function or main method that we create starting at line 4 and ending at line 10 so far, this function creation is not being called, so it doesn't end in a semicolon. Moving forward, we can put our message into the printf statement that we would like printed to the screen. We can type a basic message to start. We'll call this hello world. If we go ahead and move over to our compiler on the left side here, we can run our program. And as you see, we go ahead and we compile with no errors. And then in running our program, we get hello world as specified in our printf statement. Now moving forward, we may want to create a variable to hold some kind of information or value, but we're going to want that information to be able to be manipulated in some way or possibly printed to the screen. So to do this, we'll start by creating an integer variable. This is going to hold a number in a sense. We'll call it int x. In C, we must declare our variable on one line and then give it a value on another line. We can give it value 10 in our case. Using this x equals 10 now, we have now declared an integer variable that we can now manipulate in some way, shape, or form. To do this, we're going to go ahead and call printf again. And using printf, we use the same syntax as before, but there's going to be one small change. This big change is going to be the fact that on the right side of a now added comma inside of our function call, we're going to give one parameter, which is going to be the variable that we want printed. And I'll get more on parameters later. Then, to finish this call, we add our message as normal. We can say our number is, and then we can put a delimiter, a space, and then that delimiter essentially is going to be a pinhole. And what's going to happen is when printf is invoked, or when we call it as shown here, it's going to go ahead and look at that %d symbol or delimiter, and it's going to go ahead and look for the variable given to fill that hole. In our case, if you look, we pass it x. So in giving it x, our number will print out to the console as whatever value x holds. For integer variables, we use a %d. If that was a char, for instance, we use a %c. So depending on which we use, we can give out different data types to print to the console. So in moving forward, if we save this file, we have our int x, we declare it as 10, and then we go ahead and try to print this value to the console. In doing that, we can run our file again. In doing so, as you see, we get no errors or warnings, and then we press A to compile. And you can see our old compile runs is there. So now, moving forward, as you see, we have compiled with no error or warnings, and at the same time, we print our first hello world, and then we go ahead and print that our number is 10 as normal. In doing these things, we have now printed values to the console, as well as plugged in a variable to print out to the console. In doing these two things, we have invoked and used many aspects of our printf statement. This will conclude our first lesson, and in the next, we can go ahead and go over scanf and the different abilities of scanf to record values from the user. Thank you, and have a good day.